Welcome back to another episode of Nacoa Lunchtime Lives, a series of live interviews where I speak to people that have supported, raised awareness for, and advocated for COAs and Nacoa around the world. Now, these interviews normally go out live across one of our social platforms, and in this very special episode, I speak to Tess, known widely as Yoga Tess. Yoga Tess has been an incredible advocate for Nacoa for a number of years now, and is particularly known for the yoga work that she's done for Nacoa. This is another powerful and emotional live with Tess. We talk about what life was like for her growing up with an alcoholic father, what that meant, and how eventually she kind of freed herself and found some hope and gratitude in her life despite the things that she's gone through. And this is definitely something that I took from the interview. It was one of hope and a one of sort of gratitude, and knowing that there can be some positives that come out of the adversity that COAs face. Sit back and enjoy this one. You might want to grab the tissues because, like so many of the interviews, there's lots of deep sharing from Tess, but like I say, most definitely in a way that creates and breeds hope for all of us. If this is the first time that you've ever been here, please do make sure that you have subscribed, turned on the notifications so you know each and every time that we post a new interview. Tess, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good, actually. I'm feeling very lively today and very buoyant after such a great live yesterday.
I know.
I was chatting to Piers. We just saying, I think it was last night, it might have been this morning. This is going to be the perfect way to follow it up. The perfect way to follow up yesterday's session.
Good.
So how are you feeling? How are you feeling about doing this?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, it's a bit strange for me because I've never kind of spoken openly. I mean, I've written it briefly about it earlier this year when I did my sponsored 14 hours of yoga. I wrote briefly about it, but I haven't ever discussed openly about it. So this is the first time. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Okay, well, look, there's bound to be some nerves and some, it's a big thing to be sharing about, right? So, with that as well, I think everybody will really appreciate you doing it, particularly with all the work that you've done. So, look, before we dive in, hi, Hussein, who's just joined us as well and given us a wave. Before we kind of dive in and really go fully into some of the things that we want to talk about today, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everybody who you are and what you do in the world as a person.
Okay, so I'm Tess and I'm on Instagram as Yoga Tess. I teach yoga and I also work with my husband in his family company. I've got two gorgeous children. Oh, there's Hillary. Hi, Hillary. I have two gorgeous children, Belle and JJ. They are 9 and 10, and as Belle likes to say, nearly 11. So yeah, every time you ask her age, she says nearly 11.
Yeah.
They're gorgeous. JJ is a complete football crazy, determined little guy who wants to be number 11 for Manchester United one day and wakes up every day working towards it. He's got the biggest work ethic that I've ever known in anybody.
Wow.
And Belle is just TikTok crazy. So they keep us busy, and I've got Justin, my husband. He is great. My mum. So that's kind of me in the world right now, doing yoga, being a mum, and working, and dealing with 2020 like everybody else is.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, of course.
Crazy year.
And I did see you did the splits yesterday, didn't you? Was it yesterday?
I did the split.
I saw that.
Me 34 years. And I called Justin to the window because I was up in the summer house, and I was like, look what I can finally do. And I did it. So yeah, it just shows keep trying. And if I can do the splits, anybody can.
I would beg to differ when you look at me trying to do it. If I can say, I don't know if I've got enough years left in me to get to how far I would have to go. But yeah, no, I saw it yesterday, and it was I did think, oh, well done.
Yeah, I'm pleased I did it.
And look, as well as all of that, you're an incredible volunteer for Nacoa with the stuff that you do, right? The fundraisers that you've done, and perhaps we'll get on to talk a little bit about them in a moment as well. Well, not perhaps, we definitely will.
but why don't we start off? Why don't you tell us a little bit about why Nacoa has become important to you, or how you found us and why you found us?
So years and years ago, well, I'll start from the beginning. From the beginning, I have a dad who's an alcoholic, and he has never admitted it. Even to this day, I don't think he's actually admitted that he's an alcoholic. So growing up was pretty tough. I had my mum, they separated at 8, and I don't really remember too many bad things before that age. I mean, I knew they were getting divorced, and I didn't really pick up on the alcoholism in the house at that point.
Mm.
I always just remember thinking whenever I was really young that at night that my parents would turn into monsters. So I would see almost like cartoon characters of monsters fighting, and but it was like that was how my brain coped with it. So it never was them. It was just this story in my head at night. Obviously it was happening, and that was just how I was processing it. And
Wow.
then they separated. My mum left. She's incredibly strong person, and she was treated incredibly badly by him. There was lots of violence and everything. So they separated, and we ended up then going through the court system as to custody with me, and that went on. And he was a very controlling person, and he managed to always get everybody to believe him. So it was always he could win anybody around. Everybody else's voices were always silenced, and you'd believe him. So anyway, they separated, and I ended up kind of splitting my time. The courts said I would live a week with one and a week with the other, which was a kind of suggestion from me as well, because I wanted to try and be fair. And then when that did happen, I realized, I think as you start to get, probably, I've heard it in some of your other ones, when people have said about 12-ish, you begin to realize that this isn't normal. And going to the pub, after school, and sitting there with him while he drinks and everything, it's not fun anymore. It's not, going to bed whenever you want and eating whatever you want and drinking as much, Coke as you want. It becomes not fun anymore, and you realize actually there's something wrong with this. I don't really have a parent here. So I began to realize that something was really wrong, and that not everybody had violence and alcoholism in their home. So I asked my mum if she'd go back through the court process, because I didn't have the courage to tell him that I didn't want to live with him. I kind of still wanted him in my life at that point. It never came into my mind that I would cut contact with him. I just thought I would go to what other kind of children of separated parents would do, and they would have time with their mum, and then they'd go for every other weekend with their dad, and I assumed that might be what I would do through the courts. And things then just spiraled, went really wrong. He was in another relationship, and he was abusive to her as well. So I was continuously kind of trying to separate fights and clearing up glass, and there were cuts and bruises on everybody apart from me. I was never touched. I don't know why, but not one finger was ever laid on me. But everybody else around me, it was. So it was awful. I didn't have friends at school. I think I used all my energy just to get through every day at home with him, that then I'd go to school, and I don't really know. I think I was kind of like invisible. I just sat there and did what I had to do. And then I went home to kind of be a parent to my half sister, and kind of cook dinner and sort everybody out, and cleaning was a big thing in the house. Like even the plants in the house, the leaves had to be polished.
Wow.
Like everything had to be so clean. Went through the courts again. Social services became involved, but everybody just fell into his trap. I went, social services phoned the wrong number, and they phoned for them to arrange the appointment, which was supposed to be confidential, with my mum had helped me to arrange. They phoned his home phone by accident, and they left a message on his answer phone for my mum saying about your appointment with social services for Tess, etc. And I walked through the door from school, and he said, "I've got something to play you." And he played the voicemail from social services.
Wow.
And you're like standing there thinking, I don't know what I'm going to say. How do I get out of this one? Because I've asked to go back through the courts, but no, he doesn't know that I've asked. I want to be taken off him, but I can't tell him that.
Oh, wow.
And now I'm having to confront the fact that he now knows. And so it was, I don't even know how I got out of that one. He wingled it round that then he took me to the social services appointment in Woolwich. And like in offices, you've got the screens and they're like padded and they divide offices up.
Yeah.
I was interviewed on one side of it and he was on the other. And
wow.
they're asking me questions and I'm like, I must have been 12 or 13 then. And I'm just sitting to the girl going, I can't say anything. They're behind me, like him and his partner, they're sitting behind me. I can't tell you anything. And then, he was so lovely to her that their report came back, great for him. I didn't say anything. So that didn't help in the court system. It was kind of like I was failed by a lot. I was failed by teachers. He came drunk to, I'm throwing loads at you. I'm so sorry.
No, you're not. Keep going.
He turned up at a parents' evening late. I was already there. I'd had some sort of practice for something that I probably stayed there late for to not have to go home. And he turned up really drunk, like really, really drunk. And he had an argument with one of the mums. I was so embarrassed. And I think that's the biggest thing, is one of the biggest things. It's the embarrassment. You're so embarrassed. Everybody else's parents are there and they care about what they're about to listen to. And, all of this. I mean, he couldn't care less if I had done well or not. So he had a big argument with her. So I told the courts that, my teacher they know what I'm talking about. They saw how drunk he was. And the teacher, he wrote, how funny is this? I've got a delivery now of all times. The parcel force man turns up at the door.
Don't worry. Have you got to
go get the parcel?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Hang on. I'm going to actually open my window. Here we go. Hi. Thanks so much. Bye. There we go. We'll just leave it on the doorstep. No one will take it. I'll keep my beady eye out. And then the teacher, when he was contacted by the courts, he said he couldn't prove that he was drunk, although he may have appeared like it. He couldn't prove it and say to the courts yes or no. So it was like, nobody would help me. And then it just came to a point, and he phoned me one night. I was at my mum's. It was completely out of the blue. I don't even know what he said. I don't really think about it all. He said something, and I just said, that was it. It was like, I've snapped now, enough. And I just said, I'm never coming back. You will never see me again. This is wrong. What you do is wrong. I'm not coming back. And that was it. I mean, my whole bedroom was just left untouched. Just never went back. And it was the best thing I ever did. And I suppose what it taught me is sometimes there aren't people there to help you, and you just have to help yourself. And that was what I had to do. And I guess then, moving forward, I moved to be with my mum full time, moved schools because he would wait outside the other school. He lived near there. It was just the best. It was like my life just turned from there. And it was just great. From then, I've got the same friends now that I met on that first day at school. They're great. We've had girls' holidays together. I met my husband a year later now, so nearly 20 years on. And and I just don't really want I don't want other children to have to help themselves on their own. I had my mum. Like, I get that. I had my mum, and my mum is amazing. You know, if you know her, you know, then you know what I mean. She is, and she supported me all the way. And she still hasn't overly ever said really bad things about him. Like, she's always been very respectful, even after everything he did to her. But yeah, it's I don't want other children to have to help themselves. I think that they sometimes just need that bit of encouragement to let them know that it will all be okay in the end, which is what I heard yesterday in your interview yesterday. I used to tell myself that. I used to say, oh, I'm getting all of this now. I'm getting all the bad luck. All the bad things are happening to me now. So when I'm older, it's going to be really good. Like, life is going to be great because it's all coming to me now. Everyone has rubbish in their life. I'm just getting it all in one go now. And that's kind of what kept making me like drive forwards. And then I had my daughter, and I wanted then to help others. And I saw that Nacoa was too far away for me to volunteer for the helpline at that point. So this was about, well, nearly 11 years ago, because she keeps telling me she's nearly 11. And so then I trained to be a mentor for COAP, and then COAP I was going to help COAP, and it kind of never really happened. And I always felt like I needed to do something. And then I came back to Nacoa kind of last year. I've been watching from the sidelines what is going on and the walks and things that they do. And then this year, my children's amazing. I'm really, really rabbiting on here. I'm like,
no, you're not. No, you're not.
Are you aware that I'm just a complete chatterbox?
No. This is brilliant. This is brilliant.
My children go to this amazing school, and they're doing a summer ball. Well, they were doing the summer ball, and then COVID hit. They asked for charities to be nominated to be like a beneficiary of the summer ball. So I put forward Nacoa, and they were so kind to say yes. The P&F ladies there are amazing. And we went to the Houses of Parliament thing this year, and I dived in a picture with you right at the end. It was you, Callum Best, and David Colwell, and you were having a picture that I was like, can I jump in? And then I like launched myself into the picture.
I remember it. Yeah,
so,
I remember it.
Right at the end, they came along to that with me, and we really did hear even more then about it all. And then COVID hit, so the summer ball didn't happen, and I was very aware that the funding that I'd kind of visualized Nacoa was going to get then wasn't going to get it. So I did my 14 hours of yoga to raise money. So I'll stop at that point, because you might want to digest that whole amount of information I just threw at you.
Well, actually, I don't want. Can you tell us about the? Can you tell us before I come back? There's loads, obviously, that I want to pick up on, but I think it completes the story if you tell us about the yoga that you did. So tell us what that looked like, what you replaced it with.
So I did 14 hours of yoga. I chose 14 because I was 14 years old when I walked away from that house and never went back. And I think it was on the 14th of April as well. So there was lots of 14. So I chose 14 hours. And yeah, I just didn't stop. I did 14 hours of sun salutations, and I was blistered. I was bruised. I was in so much pain. Yoga shouldn't cause you pain. If you do yoga correctly, as you know, I'm sure everyone in like the British School of Yoga right now thinking, you know, Tess, yoga doesn't cause pain. It shouldn't. But I mean, that was tough. But I just had to keep going because people had sponsored me, and I put a goal target of £1,400 just because of the 14. And I thought, oh, there's no chance I'm going to get that. But, you know, you had to put a target, and I think it gave 1,600 as like, you know, the generic target. And then I dropped it down and to 14 because it meant something. And then we got over £2,000.
Wow.
So I was really, really pleased that everybody, like I keep saying, we did, because I honestly, when I was doing that 14 hours, had people not have logged in on Facebook Live, Instagram, message me, donations coming through. Like, my kids were telling me, so and so's just donated this, so and so's just donated that, and it kept me going. Yeah, so had it not have been for everybody, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So it really was a we thing. It was a group effort. And yeah, so before that started, Hillary emailed me and she said, good luck on your yogathon, Tess. And then I was like, then my ears pricked up. I was like, I've got something here. So I decided I'm not stopping at 14 hours of yoga. We've got to keep this going. Yoga draws so many lovely, amazing people to it. So I was like, right, let's take it further. So coming up this year, we are going to do a yogathon, and it's going to be a day event on the Saturday. I haven't got the exact date right now, but it's the Saturday of Children of Alcoholics Week. And we're going to do 14 hours of yoga. So people can join in. It's going to be totally safe because it's going to be structured really well. And it's going to be a really good event for everybody to do. So that's my next step. So that's currently where I'm at.
And that's for 2021, right?
2021, Children of Alcoholics Week. Yeah.
Do you know what? It's funny. What I know about Children of Alcoholics Week is it's the week that the February the 14th falls in. You know that?
Yeah.
Oh, you did know that?
Day.
Yeah. So the way I always know Children of Alcoholics Week when I go and look is I look for the 14th, and whatever that day is in that week, then that's how I know it's Children of Alcoholics Week.
Yeah.
So that's pretty incredible in itself. And by the way, I'm going to pick you up on something that you said. You know, you did very. You said that you couldn't have done it without everybody, which, you know, in this case is probably true. But I think if anybody was going to be able to do it without everybody, I think it would probably have been you. So based on what you've done, like what you've told us about the rest of your life, is that you seemed to be able to do everything on your own, aside from perhaps, obviously your mum being involved.
Oh, my poor mum, the amount of phone calls she gets a day, it's like, Mum, she must just think, I don't know, I must just be like her most regular caller. I don't, but, there's always somebody in everybody's life. My mum is just mine. That's that. So.
How important do you think that relationship was with your mum throughout your...
Hugely important. You can't beat what I've got with my mum at all. Yeah.
Have you seen these comments that are coming in as you're talking?
Oh, I haven't seen all of. Definitely up for joining. Oh, that's good.
Somebody said Tess. Yeah. But we'll go back through them, because if you've not been reading them, I'll pull them down and read some of them out.
Yeah.
But basically, particularly when you were sharing your story, there was a lot of people that were coming in and saying that they resonate with what you were saying. So I think it's really important to make sure that you kind of know that. But yeah, you said that the relationship with your mum was important, right?
Oh yeah, but I have to say, and listening to some of your previous interviews and chats, that I took a lot out on her. Like, if I could swear now and say that I was to her, I was horrible. I mean, how she even still wanted me as her daughter, I don't know. And I think it's that same as what happens with quite a lot of people. I would have to go to my dad's and kind of just deal with everything, and I couldn't react to things. So I couldn't be sad about what was happening. I couldn't be angry, or it's just you had to kind of be emotionless and just carry on and go. And then I would go to my mum's, and I think she said before that I'd turn up and I'd be like skin and bones, where I guess probably the stress got to me through the week. And I eat for, they call me Dyson, in this house, because I just eat and eat and eat. I love food, and that's never changed. But I mean, I'd eat, but it must have done something to my body that I'd come back and I'd be skinny again, really thin. And then my mum would try and feed me up for the week before I'd go off again. And in that week, I was horrible to my mum, really not nice. And she used to say to me, this is fine, because you take it out on the people that are closest to you. So I'm going to take it because obviously I'm the closest person to you, and that's my job here. But I mean, that must have been horrible for her, like, but she knows I love her, so and I'm there for her now, as she always was for me. I just wish I hadn't have been like that.
Well, look, firstly, your mum sounds like an incredible human being.
She is.
Yeah, she really is. But I think, when you talk about, you would use an expletive to describe how you were with your mum. Actually, when you hear your story, the way you were with your mum makes perfect sense. Actually, from what I hear, when your mum provided a space for you to be able to explore some of the emotions that your dad otherwise wouldn't let you. A lot of which were created by your dad. You could argue in a lot of ways it was your dad still being horrible to your mum, and actually you were just the sort of carrier of that, right? Because it wasn't you. You were a child, an innocent child. So, I think there's a lot to be said for that. And there's a couple of really powerful things that you've said when you were sharing your journey that really stuck out for me. The first was right at the beginning, where you envisaged monsters. That was how you processed what was going on downstairs. I think there's a couple of reasons why I would say that's really powerful. One, I can't tell you how many people I hear say my children weren't affected by my drinking because they were in bed most of the time when a lot of the bad stuff happened. I think it's really important to understand that most children lay upstairs like you did, trying to make sense of what was going on downstairs. Do you remember that as a child? Is it a vivid memory, or is it kind of distant in terms of what it was like then?
Honestly, now I feel like, my mum has said this as well, we feel like it was a different life, like a lifetime ago. I think, I mean, I don't know how I've done it, but it's kind of like that was then, this is now. Like, I don't ever really think of it all. The only thing, when I do think about it, like now, or other times that maybe I've discussed things briefly, that I remember one particular night, and I can remember the exact position I was in bed. I can remember the exact room, and that must have been a really bad night, because I really can I can remember the whole monster thing that night, like it was yesterday, that particular night. So maybe that was a bad one. I just remember it was almost like nightmarish. It was, everything was spinning. It was just bizarre. But it was just obviously the way my brain was kind of, like you say, processing it. It was, yeah.
Look, at that age, when your brain's developing in the way that it was, right, it has to find a way to process something that really it shouldn't be experiencing, right? Something else that you talked about that might resonate with a lot of people was that when you were living with your dad, when you went to school, you were invisible. I don't know if you realize you said that, but I don't know. Is that something that you really remember, being invisible at school? I mean, because that's, when you actually break that down and look at that, that's not a very nice experience for a young sort of 12 teenage, coming on the cusp of being a teenage girl. It must have been quite. How did you feel about school, feeling that way?
Do you know what? I didn't even know university existed until I moved schools. And about a year later, that is how absorbed I was in kind of just getting through every day. I didn't even visualize things of, what happens after. It was just deal with every single day. I just remember I just wasn't happy at school, but I don't know if anybody would have maybe known. You'd see all the groups of people with friends and things, and I would just kind of like linger with the person that was on their own, just because then we'd kind of keep each other company for a bit, and then that person would move schools, and then I'd linger to the next person that was kind of on their own. And I never had a best friend. I kind of just dot about with anybody. Anyone that had me, I was like, can I join in with you? It was just, and it was probably easier that way, because maybe if you had a best friend and they were to come round, and but that's another thing. People seem, this is a big thing. a lot of people, when you say alcoholics, I think they think of that person sitting on a park bench and, you know, like we had a house, like I have, you know, my dad paid his mortgage. He went to work every day. Like he was functioning away, you know. But yeah, he was an alcoholic. Like he just because he wasn't sitting on a park bench. So people would see the house. They'd see, you know, that I had the bag that everybody, you know, I had every. It wasn't like, you know, I didn't kind of look like, you know, I was uncared for. I probably looked like I was cared for. Yeah, but I was just kind of invisible. I just kind of floated around. I just wanted to get through every day. Yeah, and it wasn't probably the best school either, which didn't help. You know, maybe if I was at a better school, maybe it would have been different. Maybe the teachers would have cared more. There was no care really there. Whereas now you look at my children's school, oh, it's just amazing. Parents' evening, every teacher knows every single thing about your child. And you think, wow, like you know them. And you know that bending a knee and, you know, like you're saying, like that, like just an asking how somebody is. I know that would happen at my children's school, but my school was different. It probably wasn't the best school. So I was really thankful when I moved schools and went to my new school.
And I do think it's a lot different now. Not in every case. I'm sure there's people still having very similar experiences to what you've talked about, and that's some of the work that Nacoa is trying to do, is kind of break down some of those barriers. And I think they do exist, but I do definitely, you know, I do quite a lot of work with children's services and stuff now, and that kind of, I know that they are definitely trying to make sure that they can't have the wall pulled over their eyes. You know, particularly. That time when you sat and your dad was the other side of the board. I mean, that's just unfathomable to believe that could happen to a young person like yourself in that situation. And by the way that you described that you were at school, the person that's in front of me today, I don't believe was supposed to be that person that just sort of floated about having whoever could, you know, you strike me, as somebody who would be very popular if you were the person that you should have been able to be, you know?
I wasn't, yeah, I was, you probably, you're quite good at picking up on things. So it's very true. And I'll tell you how that, I agree with that. I never felt like I was, and I hadn't realized it at the time, that I was just kind of getting through every day until I let go of that and stopped it and, you know, walked away. And then I went to my new school and then I realized actually I am actually a person. Like, you know, and I can do things, and, you know, and now it's like you'll never find me saying, you know, no to anything other than jumping out of a plane. I've said to my husband, not a chance am I jumping out and parachuting, because he did it and he'd like me to do it. That's the only thing I'd say no to. Everything else, you'll just hear me say, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. You know, life is so much to do, and, you know, it's so exciting. And I realized how much there was to look forward to once I left. And when I bought, we bought our first house and we'd moved out and everything, myself and my husband, and I got a letter from my dad, and he'd put in something, you know, that he hadn't been very well. But he obviously wasn't, I don't think he was that poorly, because he's still kind of out and about today. But he, I say that quite harshly, because I don't have an emotional attachment to him. So if I ever sound quite harsh, I understand now that it's an illness that he obviously has. And it's taken me many years to kind of realize that. But it is an illness. I do look back at pictures of him when he was really younger, and I don't think he was a bad person to begin with. For whatever reason, he became the person that he did, and that's not my mum's fault, that's not my fault, and that's why we have to walk away. And that's for him. If he wants to help, he finds the help. You know, he had support to have help, and he never wanted to admit it and have it. So I'm quite like, you know, I don't want to seem like I'm emotionless, because I'm like, I cry at everything. But when it comes to him, he didn't give me the emotion I needed. And, you know, so you can't give back really to somebody that hasn't, you know, given it to you. You have to earn things. He never earned that from me. So anyway, I got this letter, and I remember writing back saying that how much my life has changed, and how I used to, I can't remember the exact words I said, but it was basically along what you said, how people never used to want to know me. Now people want to be with me. Like, you know, as a friendship group, as things like that. People never, no one wanted to know me, you know, in those early years. I was like, you know, nobody, you know, oh, Tess, you know, just, you know, she's that girl who probably sits on her own. You know, nobody wanted to know me. And then people wanted to be with me, friendship groups and doing things together. And I remember just saying, you know, no, I won't be in contact with you again, because I'm never going back to that. So, yeah, so you picked up there on something I said to him in a letter back, and that was the last contact we had.
Look, I want to reflect back on some of the things that you said. I think, firstly, you don't come across as cold. Actually, what I had been thinking until what you'd said then is that I probably will still ask you this in a moment, but I want to reflect first, is that you seem emotionally quite free from the whole situation. I don't sense, and I've been trying to sense it as well, but I don't sense like a deep resentment towards your dad. And I feel like I would pick it up even if I feel like you were trying to hide it, and I don't feel like you were. So I want to ask you a little bit about that in a moment, but you don't come across as cold. Actually, what you come across as is very emotionally rounded, based on the experiences that you've had. And I think what you've highlighted is something that I think is really, really important, and something that I didn't understand until I found Nacoa and started looking at this, which is that you can understand how and why somebody reaches a certain life situation, right? And you can say what you said, which is true, that he probably suffers from an illness, and that, you know, he maybe was never supposed to be like that either. But that's not your fault, nor is it your responsibility. And it's not your mum's fault, and nor is it your mum's responsibility. And so you don't have to allow there being understandable reasoning for why he's like he is, to abandon yourself and put yourself in situations that are not healthy for you and your family. And I think what you articulated much better than what I've possibly reflected it back was that's allowed, that you're allowed to put yourself first, and you're allowed to say, you know what, it doesn't matter anymore. You've wasted or passed up on the opportunity that you had to have a relationship with me. And yeah. I think that's incredible. I think it's incredible for anyone that's watching this. You know, we live in a society, by the way, now that kind of just says when it's your parents, they're just your parents, so you have to kind of just forgive them, and he is your dad. I mean, have people ever fed you that kind of message? He's your dad, you should let it go, give him another chance. I suppose you don't have people in your life that do that. No,
I wouldn't have people in my life that would think that. Everybody, and nobody's ever, I've never actually said as much as I've kind of just said now, really, to anybody, possibly not even my husband in one go. But yeah, they just know. People just know, like, that. I don't think people would say it to me.
No.
I really don't. I've got, you know, by letting go of that, I opened myself up to possibilities, and I mean life, possibilities, everything. And by opening myself up to all of that, I've got the most amazing friends. I've got, you know, my mum around all the time. I've got my children. I've got my husband. But I had to let go of that first to be able to be open to all of this. So everybody that's then kind of come to me from there, yeah, they just get it. I haven't ever had to explain, which is, I've never thought about it. Never had to explain to anybody, like, why. They kind of just get it. And I wish more people knew it was okay. You know, I remember being in the bath whenever I was a baby. It was on a home video, which is actually one of the things I left at his house. And I always wonder, it's only my things that I wonder what happens to them. Like I had a scrapbook and a home video, and they were probably the two only things. Maybe I wanted them for my mum because, you know, as a mum, you want those things. And in this home video, I was in the bath and I was washing my hair and I was rinsing my hair, and I thought I was rinsing it, but the jug was kind of not even touching my hair. It was going down the back. And I was talking away about the children that I'd have when I was older. And I said, oh, I'm going to have lots of children. I'm going to adopt a whole children's home. And it was my dad who was videoing this. So, you know, he had, don't get me wrong, you know, he had moments, you know, and I don't doubt that he did have love for me, because I do believe he did. And he was protective, and, you know, think there were those moments, but when the bad outweighs the good, that's when, you know, something's wrong. Yeah, and I said I would adopt the whole children's home. And I mean, I would, like, if I had, like, you know, a huge house and everything, I would adopt a whole children's home, and I'd have them all running around and, you know, cared for and believed in themselves and going off and achieving amazing things. But if I could just do something like that, but different, it just get that message out to those children that it genuinely can be okay in the end. Like, everything is a phase, and what they're going through now, if they're living in a house like I was, it is a phase and it's not forever, and they will get out of it and they will become independent on their own, and they'll have the life that they want, and they're not defined by what that person did. You know, I have not one part of me is defined by what he chose to do. That's to him. What I choose to do, I know right from wrong. And I knew it from the moment that I sat in his car and he would drink, drive and not wear a seatbelt. And the police would pull us over and they'd come up to me and they'd say, well done for wearing your seatbelt. I was thinking, well, I'm not going to not wear my seatbelt. He's like completely out of it. But, you know, I knew right from wrong, and I always have. And so many of these children, they can achieve so much. Like, they're going to have this fire inside them that nobody else can have because they haven't had that experience. And they're going to do so much good with that. They're going to have the most amazing lives, but it's just letting them know that. And that's why I'm speaking about it. And that's why I'm trying to do what I can for Nacoa, because that's what they do. They just let everyone know that it's okay to be, you know, you're not alone and you will get through this. And it's not a question of if, it is when you do get through this, you know. And then, as it was said yesterday in your interview, but with that, when you come through it, you have the responsibility to help the next ones that are coming through. And that's I feel that responsibility now, that I have to just, you know, give my message just to help other people come through. I ramble on, don't I?
You don't. You don't. Listen. I'll tell you now. You're certainly not rambling. When you were speaking, I was just thinking. You know, I remember when I first found Nacoa. I remember saying to Hillary, our CEO, about, I just wish when I was a child somebody could have just. I wish I could have seen a Nacoa poster or something like that so that I could understand. I mean, the amount of children that need to see the things that you're saying, actually not just children, there's a lot of adults actually that could really do with seeing the things that you're saying, because I think, you know, that you do give hope, that you've been able to process the thing. I mean, is there anything that you've done? Have you done specific, what's the secret here, Tess?
Right. See, I've looked at your stuff and all your resilience, you know, and I'm wondering, I question what has enabled me, because I don't think I'm overly affected by him. And I feel bad saying that, because I know that, you know, so many people say that they're really affected by what happened, and I just don't feel like I am. There's probably bits of me that are, like, I know that I'm very protective of my family, my children, you know, and I know that he was like that. You know, a girl, I thought she laughed at me at school in assembly, and the next morning he was up those stairs in the school getting me to point out what girl it was. He was in the school, he got banned from the school, you know. But I know that I know it was wrong, but I know it came from a place of care and protection. And I know that I have, you know, I'm very, you know, protective of my children and even my husband. Like, you know, that my family, if you've got me, my friends, you've got me. Like, I've got you, you've got me. That's how it works. And if you don't, that's it. I suppose maybe the only thing is it determination? Is it just thinking that I won't be beaten by that? That I don't know. I don't know if it's resilience. I wish I could. The way that I process it, I just wish I could bottle it up and give it to people, and then them not be so affected, because I know that there are so many people that are so deeply affected by what happened to them. I do feel guilty that I'm not and saying it. And I wish I knew how I wasn't, but I don't know. Energy, I don't feel like I should waste my energy on that. I can't change it. Like, I can't change it. But also, I'm grateful in a bizarre way. Would I change it? Probably not. Like, but I wasn't, you know, hurt like other people were in the home. I suppose I was emotionally hurt, but not physically hurt. But then I wouldn't be here now. Like there's an element of gratitude. Sounds really like gratitude, you know, like airy fairy. Like, oh yeah, I'm so grateful that my dad was an alcoholic, but like I wouldn't have Belle and JJ.
Yeah.
Like, and I would never. So you know, it's like I would never want to take them out of my life. So if I change things, I wouldn't have them. Like every moment has brought me to them, and wherever you're going, it gets better. You know, non-attachment. Tracy said that's something in yoga. Non-attachment, so not getting attached, letting those things go. You know, but it takes something to let go of it. And
do you think the yoga's helped then? Do you think the yoga's helped you?
Yoga's helped me. Yeah, yoga's helped me be a lot kind of calmer. I'm a lot calmer now. I was still quite snappy, even, you know, 10 years ago. It was really snappy. But I'm very much like, don't tell me what to do. You know, I'm not, you know, I don't like people feeling like they can control me. So maybe that's something that maybe is a bit of effect. So I'd be very snappy, whereas I'm a lot more mellow now. My mum says to me, I don't know when you've done yoga.
Yeah.
So yeah, yoga is very helpful. It gives you time, even without all of this, day-to-day life, like everything in life, there's always something every day. Like, let's face it, you know, there's like a bill you don't expect that comes in and you think, oh, really? You know, or, you know, something happens with the car, or something happens with the kids, and everything changes. What you thought was going to happen that day doesn't. Yoga just helps you process everything easier, smooth, you know, but it takes time. You can't just go to one yoga class and think that that's going to change your life, because it's not. It's commitment, consistency.
What about 14 hours? Would 14 hours change your life if you got involved? If people are thinking, right, I need to get to where Tess is, if they joined in and got themselves sponsored during COA week next year and did 14 hours of hours of yoga, maybe they'd be where you are.
Maybe it would. I mean, one thing I just like with my yoga classes is that I don't ever feel like I'm just teaching yoga. Everybody there, I get, you know, I'm there for them. You know, like I said, with friends and stuff. If I'm teaching somebody, then they've got me and I've got them. It's the same thing. It's that loyalty, but in a good way. Not that, you know, that loyalty of not wanting to speak up about your parent because to be loyal to them. It's a good loyalty. That's my husband now. He's logged in under my son's account. My
all right, we better change the subject then.
Change the subject. We'll stop talking about him. But no, like I say, if I always said I would. The only thing I can do, I mean, I can't always bathe in. The only thing I can't give the answer to people. Like, I can't give that. Everybody's going to process it in their own way. Everybody's going to deal with their own way. Some people are going to struggle more than others. Maybe I'm one that has maybe I dealt with it all back then and I can't remember how I dealt with it. But if I can at least get the message out to those children and adults that they've just got to keep pushing themselves. Maybe they can't just rely on other people all the time. They're going to have to, you know, they can do it. And, you know, things do end up being okay.
Yeah. No, and I think there's real weight in your message, in that message of hope, right? And I do think, like, sometimes we can, I know, like, I can be like an overly emotional person, right? And so I can be someone who's like, no, let's go back and really get into the emotions. And sometimes I can overdo that, right? And I need a little bit more of, I could do with the ability of just being a bit more like you are, right? And I think that probably comes down to characteristics. And there would have been a time, by the way, probably a number of years ago, when I would have found it really difficult, because I would have been almost jealous of, like, how you are. But I think, you know, I certainly don't sense that you're, like, pretending to be like this. Do you know what I mean? I do. I meet some people who are like, I've got it all together, right? And I'm not angry about any of it. And I'm like, you clearly are, right? You clearly are, right? I mean, you can tell me all you want that you're in a really good place, but you're clearly not. But I don't get that from you at all. I actually do, you know, for whatever reason, you know, I think some of the things that have certainly stood out for me is the relationship that you had and have with your mum, which has been really important. Your family that you've you know, created and have now, and the circle of people that you've got around you, and the yoga. When you talked about yoga, you said that it's to help you process, and, you know, you've found that, and I think, you know, you've really done the work, and a lot of it you did have to do yourself. Don't forget, you know, you were rejected by, you know, help really was rejected when you were younger, and you talked about being a teenager and going from being invisible. You actually said, almost flippantly, I don't even realize if you, I don't even know if you realized you said it, but you said you almost felt like, oh wow, I am actually a human, right? And I think sometimes the series of events that we go through in our lives help us to go on to carry the message that we carry, right? And I think something that really comes through for me, for you, is, you know, that resilience. It is that resilience. And the work that I do in resilience now, the one thing that I know is that resilience looks different for everyone, right? And I think you certainly, your message is one of resilience, and I think it's really powerful. And I've been thinking to myself, I'll come back to these comments because we've been having such great conversation. Hussein says, whatever you've done to get to this point, I agree with Josh, there is something there, and your words definitely have power, and all very positive, and that you're not rambling at all. Have you been keeping up with these comments?
No, I've started to, since you said, and then I was looking. Shall I scroll?
Well, you can scroll through, but just make sure. I just want to make sure that you have a read. I think they stay on the video afterwards as well. So when this goes on the grid, I hope they do. Now I've said that. But you know, Kerry said that she's in awe of your strength. Tracy talked about your dad being your biological father, but that you earn the title of dad, and I think that's really, really important.
You do. You earn it, like you earn friendship.
Yeah.
You know, you do earn things.
Yeah, and it's a dysfunctional idea that just because somebody is your biological dad, that you should protect them at all costs, no matter what, right? Actually, I think what you demonstrate really well is you can understand and you can have compassion for them, but ultimately you have to put yourself first. Maybe there's a lot in that, you know, that when eventually, whatever it was, when you were 14 and you just said enough, and, you know, that was probably taught you a lot as a human, and you've held on to that, I think, as a person, to go, you know what, I'm not going that far down the path again before I put myself first. And I think a lot of the healing work that I talk about is finding a way to put yourself first. And maybe you found that way at 14 years old and it changed your life. I don't know, maybe. I don't know.
But then it doesn't make you selfish, just putting yourself first in situations like that, because I am the least, like, selfish person that, you know, I'd give my children everything over myself. Like I would, like, even Justin, I don't know, he's probably not even looking anymore. He's, you know, he's probably just checked in and checked back out. But, you know, if it can't, you know, even whenever you're like dishing up dinner, and if one plate looks like it's got more food than the other, I would eat all of that extra food, but I still give him the bigger one.
Yeah.
Like I'm just because you put yourself first in these situations, it doesn't mean you're a selfish bad person. It just means that you can't continue to be damaged by somebody, like, you know. And if I can just say something about Nacoa and the new messaging board, that I think for anybody who needs to talk, that I think is key, because our phone calls were recorded, so he was recording our phone calls. So when I'd phone because you didn't have mobiles then, you know, I don't think I got a mobile until I was like 13, 14, something. So when I would phone my mum, I'd hear the clicking on the phone. So we'd have to be really careful what we'd say because he was recording it all. So I wouldn't have been able to phone. I mean, and now it's different. I suppose people have got mobiles, but even then, phone bills, if someone's really controlling as well, it's really difficult to talk out loud. Like, my mum got me a pager so she could send me messages at night, just so I knew that, you know, she was there. And so the messaging boards for people to be able to message and not actually have to say anything out loud, I think is going to be like a game changer for Nacoa. So I think that's so brilliant what they're doing, and everyone there, as you know, how lovely are they?
Yeah, incredible.
It's so personal, and you know, Amanda, CJ, like they're lovely. It's great. Hillary is just like, I love her. She's just, what she seems to do is just great, and watching her at the Houses of Parliament is just great. You're also great. You're doing this, open up conversations. It's just the most brilliant charity. So I'm just really looking forward to being there more for the charity, and getting the message out.
Yeah, and it is true. Look, I think everybody that comes into contact with Nacoa just sort of has that kind of like, I found my tribe, and that's not just coincidence. It's because of the way that Nacoa are. And Hillary's just said, full is not selfish. It means we can give freely with love. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And, you know, likewise, I echo what you say about Hillary and everybody at Nacoa. I don't think you should put anyone on a pedestal, but Hillary's probably up on there for most people that know her. Do you know what I mean? Certainly is for me anyway. But yeah, look, we're very short on time because you know, this kicks us out. We've got a couple of minutes. So before we leave here, I think everybody that's still in here, that's in here now, if you want to say anything, you've got like a minute just to leave a message for Tess. But Tess, what would you say if I just give you the floor to say anything that you want to say? Let me ask you this. What advice would you give somebody that might be struggling? Either a child or an adult that might be struggling with a parent that drinks too much. Maybe it's not advice. Maybe it's just something you would say. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say reach out to Nacoa. I wish I'd known that Nacoa was there whenever I was younger. But to also just stay strong. Stay strong. It will all be okay. You've just got to keep going. And I believe in every single one of them. Anyone who's doubting themselves in the situation, I believe in all of them. And if I can be of any help in any way, I'm here. Nacoa's here. Like, you know, the world is an amazing place, and they are going to have the best time. They've just got to keep going. And if you're at the point that you can maybe say goodbye to that situation, then consider if that's right for you.
Yeah, exactly. And put yourself first to do that. Tess, what I'm going to do now, I want you to scroll through and read some of the things on there while I ramble on until it kicks us out.
Okay, all right then. It's going to kick us out.
I want to make sure that you just see some of them, yeah? So you can scroll back through and have a look at them. I would just want to say, you know, you can semi-listen to me, but don't worry, I'm just actually talking to keep so that this makes sense. But I just want you to read them. I want to say that I really appreciate it. I think, you know, this has been an incredibly insightful hour, particularly one of hope. You know, I think that your strength and your courage in what you've been able to achieve, I think is pretty incredible. For anyone that's sort of here, that's seen this, always know that Nacoa is there. The best thing to do is visit nacoa.org.uk. I'd imagine most people in here know all about that at the moment. But I just want to say thank you. Thanks for everybody that's put loads of comments in as well. Have you had a read? Have you had a flick through?
I've had a read through. Yep, so lovely. Yeah, I saw someone there saying about mental blockers. I don't have any mental blockers. I'm very open, and I know what happened, and I just kind of let it pass by. It's not, my energy is going to be wasted holding on to it. So no, it's so lovely to read all of those. So thank you, everybody.
Good. And I get that from you as well, Tess. I just want to say that I don't sense any kind of like, oh, there's a tsunami coming when she opens up to I don't sense that. And I get that with people often. So, so yeah, I just want to say incredible. I think it's going to kick us out any second now. So I don't want it to cut out. But again, I'm going to say thank you. Thanks to everyone that's been in here. I'm going to finish by reading out what Hillary said before I shut this down. So thank you very much, Tess. Hillary has said, we're all in this together and wondrous to share the Nacoa world with you. Love you all. I think that's an incredible way to end the session. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Tess. Thanks for everyone that's been in here. And until next time.
Bye.
All right. Bye.